Hey, it's John Bush, and on today's show, we are going to be diving deep into the world's premier, the most incredible private realm regenerative community on the planet. That's Haven Village. That's why, my friends, we are going to be playing the speech that River and Imani gave at Exit and Build 5 at Polyface Farms, where they updated the audience on the latest and greatest from Old Fort, Tennessee, the Haven Village project, a 216-acre regenerative community built in the private realm with incredible custom hemp homes and all that good stuff. You name it. Of course, Exit and Build 6 is coming up November 5th through the 8th. We'd love to invite you there. We're going to be sprinkling in some talks from speakers that have spoke at Exit and Build before and are also going to be at Exit and Build 6. And then we'll feature some new stuff from speakers that haven't spoken at Exit and Build yet. But this is the Live Free Now show, where every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, I bring you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. More on the other side. All right, friends. Hey, I want to welcome folks that are tuned in from the Haven Earth PMA YouTube channel. We're also simulcasting there. So shout out all you Haven Earth PMA friends and fans and members. Of course, a PMA is a private membership association. And the cool thing about private membership associations is it's a structure that enables you to cooperate, collaborate, coordinate with other freedom people through private agreement, not through welcoming the government into your relationship, into your organization, into your business, just privately collaborating amongst one another with private contracts, taking you out of the public realm system, man-made law, statutory law, into the private realm system, where we operate by natural law and divine law, and we just respect one another, and we have agreements, and we all show up to the best of our ability as adults. That's what a private membership association is, and it is at the heart of the Haven Village project. There's also a trust that stewards the land and other resources as part of this project, and it's all protected under a ministry that happens to be the trifecta structure. Well, there's a lot of people that are interested in building communities with this structure. Here at Exit and Build at Live Free Now, and of course we collaborate with Live Free Academy and the Exit and Build movement, but also the Exit and Build Summit. There's a lot of people that are interested in building community, building intentional community, building regenerative agriculture-based communities, neighborhoods, eco villages, whatever, you name it. And one of the struggles is, well, how do I put it together? How do we create mutual agreements for people to help govern and organize the day-to-day happenings? How do we structure the land holding, the ownership models? What can we do to avoid friction? What can we do to avoid an imbalanced power dynamic? It's a question that often comes up. And unfortunately, there's so many communities that have failed because they're not rooted in a sound, grounded, and importantly, an aligned structure. Well, that's what this model that Haven Village uses affords people. It's called the trifecta model. Again, when you're having a community land project, you steward the land in a irrevocable trust. That creates a trust, a legal structure that's separate from the individual founder or the founders or whomever started the project. It's this separate entity. That means should the founder or the organizers come under some sort of scrutiny, this is completely separate and distinct. That's the irrevocable nature of a trust. So the land, title, or the deed gets put in this irrevocable trust, right? And then, as I was sharing, you organize the community with rules and governance structures and forms of decision-making through a private membership association where there's a private member agreement, there's a board of directors, there's bylaws. And then to top it all off, you have a ministry, fellowship, church, whatever spiritual path the community members happen to be on. This gives you extra protection in the eyes of the law, but also under the protection of the divine jurisdiction, under God's protection, because we're pursuing a spiritual path through this work as well. That's the trifecta. Now, a lot of people are asking about this. A lot of people are interested. Haven Village, while, you know, there's been rocky times, and it's definitely not an easy undertaking as one of the partners on the project, but just being there alongside and witnessing River and Imani for the first couple of years, it's not easy by any means. But I tell you what, having visited a bunch of intentional communities, started my own intentional community, lived in intentional community a couple times, and hosted events, hearing from people's struggles, even exit and build intentional community virtual summits, right? I'm immersed in the world. There's one thing I know, just like a business failing, the failure rate is quite high. Unfortunately, so too, the failure rate is high for intentional communities. But I'm really impressed with what's going on at Haven Village. And I think a lot of the value there, a lot of the staying power, a lot of the integrity comes from this structure. So I want to invite you guys, actually, because again, being a collaborator on this project, along with the founders, River and Imani, there's been a lot of people that are asking and seeking guidance. How can we build our community with this private realm structure? Well, we're actually hosting a private realm community immersion, a mastermind of sorts, June 25th the 29th, 2026. And we're going to help you to build your own Haven Village style community, neighborhood, eco-village, land project. Again, it's June 25th through the 29th. It's going to be an immersion style event where you come stay on the land, where you connect with other people that are coming to this mastermind. You eat food from local farms, and most of which comes right from the land there at Haven Village. And most importantly, we spend quite a bit of time workshopping, strategizing with your project and how this model can work for you. So I want to encourage you guys. This is just a brief introduction, because this is being hosted by Haven Earth PMA and Divine Purpose PMA, which is my private membership association. So if you guys are interested, the link is there in the show notes. I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. And I want to invite you guys to come check this out. If you're building a community, if you're thinking about building a community, you'll join our membership. And then once you sign up here and agree to the member agreement, then you'll get more details on this special event that's taking place. So check that out, and we would love for you to consider joining. But of course, you got to join the private membership association first before we formally invite you. And there's an application process as well. So guys, also, again, Exit and Build 6 is coming up, where River and Imani will be there. The Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship guys, Michael Joseph, Phil Madiri, Daniel Metz, Shiloh, Marsha, and the whole Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship crew is going to be there. And we're going to be talking a lot about private realm structures for your business, for your passion, for your mission, for intentional communities, for regenerative agriculture projects. River and Imani, Alex Zeck, the great Molly Englehart, Mike Winter, Brianne Burnson, you name it. The meters are coming, Eric and Glenn, Jason Crow from Cordal, and of course, the whole Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship crew. We have some other surprise speakers that we're going to be announcing soon that I'm completely blown away that we were able to pull. This is going to be one incredible event. It all takes place November 5th through the 8th. You can stay on the land, on site, have a great time with everybody else. And again, River and Imani will be there, and we're going to spend a lot of time helping folks to build regenerative communities. But definitely consider going. The tickets are on sale at a discount right now. exitandbuild.com is the website. exitandbuild.com is the website. But like I said, today we are going to watch River and Imani's speech from Exit and Build 5 at Polyface Farms. This was actually the first time that I heard when they shared this innovation that they came up with in order to protect the land, in order to decentralize authority. Instead of just having one trust for the entire 216 acres, there's going to be multiple neighborhood trusts that are like sub-trusts, where neighbors that live within a neighborhood, they're going to be the trustees of that trust. It's really cool and unique. And as somebody that understands the model very thoroughly, when I heard them share that, because I'd been immersed in Exit and Build prep for months, and they've been formulating and strategizing. And that was the first time I heard it from the stage. And I was like, whoa, this is really something. There was a lot of wisdom that got put into this, what I consider to be an innovation in this private realm structuring of things. And there's not a whole lot of people doing it. So I guess we're the pioneers, but I thought it was very anti-fragile, to say the least. Without further ado, folks, I'm going to go ahead and play this video. It's about 57 minutes long. Let me make sure it's queued up at the beginning real quick. Just get something fixed here, and it looks like it is. Without further ado, my friends, here's River and Imani's speech from Exit and Build 5. This isn't available anywhere else actually right now. So it's an exclusive here on Live Free Now show. We do have it available for sale through one of our funnels. But I wanted to share it with you guys in preparation for Exit and Build 6, and also to invite you to the Haven Village Private Realm Community Immersion. Shared the links there in the show notes. But without further ado, enjoy the talk from Exit and Build 5.
Get that vibe, you know, it kind of feels part of the system still.
And it wasn't queued up. Just give me a sec. Let's fix this here. Rock and roll, everybody. Rock and roll, roll, roll. Yeah, yeah. When it's finished, remove. In point says 0. What's going on? Here we go. Let's try again. Take 2.
And all of that. But Joel's setting a high standard here, and just really feel.
Take 2. Take 2.
Honor Joel to be on the stage and be sharing what we're doing, because we're just.
Sorry, guys. Don't leave. I'm going to figure this out. And while you're waiting, thank you again for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, where usually, here, I'm just going to delete this and add it back, where usually we don't have little snafus like this. Everything runs pretty nice and smooth. But without further ado, for real this time, here comes River and Imani speech from Exit and Build 5 at Polyface Farm. I was really impressed. Okay, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up to River and Imani of Haven Village, who are going to share the incredible work that they're doing not too far from here in Tennessee to steward land and to really set a great example for the rest of us on how this can be done. River and Imani!
Thanks, John. It's good to be back at Exit and Build. It is, you want to start?
Sure. I just want to say hi, everybody. How are you all doing? It's been a really awesome opportunity to be here. The last time we were at Exit and Build was in 2023 in Texas. And I just have to say, Joel, this is a way better location for Exit and Build. And I just think John and Rebecca made a stellar choice to do it here, because this is what it's about. This really is. And, you know, doing it at a conference center doesn't kind of get that vibe, you know. It kind of feels part of the system still and all of that. But Joel's setting a high standard here, and just really feel honored, Joel, to be on this stage and be sharing what we're doing, because we're just, like you all, want freedom.
Getting started.
We're looking for freedom, and we're using our life experience to create something that maybe is a model that can help other people find a pathway back to freedom in these times. And yeah, 2 years ago, we presented at Exit and Build, we presented about this Haven Village project. And we really even didn't have a name for it at that point. And we'd been traveling around for a couple of years. Imani and I met about 4 years ago. And as soon as we met, we knew why we were here together. Both our visions kind of coalesced together to really create what we call as an alternative to the current system, and a way of getting back to the land in a more kind of a shared way. Community is such a charged word, so we tend to steer away a little bit from that. More like just people coming together who realize doing it alone is not going to work. And, you know, as someone said this morning wisely, it's communities with purpose rather than intentional communities. It's like we have a purpose, and we're coming together now to do that. So we wanted to share a little bit about where we got to since the last time we presented at Exit and Build, and some of the challenges we've had, some of the successes we've had, and also, you know, the strategy that we've put in place to make it a success. You want to
Of
carry
course.
it on?
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out for Nicole because that's a perfect segue for how we started here for our project at Haven Village was really with the mindset of abundance and really coming into it from a perspective of business. So there was a lot of strategy, and we spent the years since we met searching for the right land. We had a checklist, as many of you might have known listening to us at Exit and Build and the Greater Reset, that we were looking for a very specific property that would meet the needs of what we were trying to do. River, as an architect, we were traveling around and we were doing consults for people who were buying land from that place of fear when everything started breaking down. And they were really impulsive decisions, and then they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with that land. And so we were taking this strategy and actually learning a lot from the people that were made that rush to the land as we were trying to help them navigate through how they could best use that land and what they even wanted to do with that land. And so that was a real good learning curve for us to really decide clearly what we were looking for. And so we're going to go through a couple slides here.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and I just wanted to say before we go on that real quickly, I spent a bunch of time out in Russia, which you might have heard of that place now because it's on the news a lot. And they went through something similar back when the USSR broke down and the wall came down and all of that kind of thing, hyperinflation. And people decided, like, shit, we need to get back to the land because that's going to be the only way that we can support ourselves. What they didn't do was plan. They just was idealism. Oh, we're just going to go back to land and nature's going to take care of us and we're going to grow our food and we're all going to be kumbaya around the fire. And out of 600 attempts at this, you maybe 1% had success. And so I really learned a lot from that. And also, you know, kind of proposing the Haven Earth methodology about creating an economic model around education really resonated with a lot of these communities who are looking to find a different way. So this is not the first time it's happened. And I think we can learn from other people. And I think that's why you're all here is to learn and understand that maybe we can get through some of these hard lessons without having to actually go through them. And so, you know, we put together our mission, which is a little lengthy for a mission, not quite like Joel's, which I think was just like, let's make some money. Was to create safe havens that foster education, innovation, economic growth for individuals seeking a purposeful return to the land.
We aim to empower and inspire our community to cultivate abundant and agrocentric lifestyles through creative, resilient, and regenerative living practices. Together, we're building a parallel society that will not only assist us during these times of transition, but serve as a beacon of hope for future generations. You know, River and I both have families and definitely are looking at this being a legacy project. This wasn't something that we were doing. This wasn't a group of people coming to the land. This was a vision that we shared, and we brought our skill sets, being, you know, from architect, design, and project management and business to this project. I think a lot of times people are going to the land without that clear vision. I think it's different when you have a family, but many of us are trying to find our families now, again, you know, after the last couple of years. And that adds an element of challenge when you're trying to do this with people that maybe you just met not too long ago. All you know is that you're on the same page and you're all about freedom. But there's a lot more to that, especially when it talks about us all living together and how we're going to get it done. So we wanted to start with some of the things that we've actually accomplished. When we first got to the land, it was really what most people are doing, right? Looking at spending time on the land, what can that land provide, and what's that relationship with the land, and getting the initial infrastructure in place. So it was really important for us to establish local partnerships, and we put up 7 yurts and how many cabins?
8 cabins. You know, wood frame, and we, you know, really not interested. And there's one thing, kind of, you see people rushing back to the land and they're like, oh, I'll just live in an RV. That'll get me going for a while. And then, you know, 5 years down the road, the RV's falling apart. It's moldy. They're dealing with sick issues, you know, everything you can imagine. Not interested in doing that. Just not interested in creating that kind of future. So really, you know, looking at how to establish our networks, because coming back to land, building stuff and building on the land is going to take a lot of resources. It's going to take a lot of energy. The trade school is a big part of that for us, and because we can bring in people through the educational model who bring their energy and all kinds
We'll get to that.
and the economy. Yeah,
we'll stick to what we actually did in the first year. The trade school has been part of the economic model from the beginning, and one of the things that we did that was through creating the economy through building healthy hemp homes. But in order for us to get on the land, we had to have structures to live in. And one of the things on our checklist was looking at land that already had initial infrastructure. So we weren't looking for a raw piece of land. We weren't looking to put in everything that we needed. We were really fortunate that we had a 100-foot pole barn. We had hoop houses that needed repaired, needed to be covered. We had a commercial kitchen. We had a cabin that we could stay in, and we had we had some solar panels.
Mm-hmm. We had just like Joel, the previous land steward, had got USDA grants, had put in thousands of feet of 2-inch water line to watering stations all around the 200 acres. So we were able to tap into that for some of our other infrastructure for our yurts. Lots of fencing, solar, heat, 4 wells. So we weren't, people looking at running. Some of this is just economics, right? You get what you can afford. But I think it's really important to look at the infrastructure that's there, because it's going to be really hard to do this if you don't have some infrastructure on the land.
And with that, also putting in our food security measures, we knew that we didn't want to start learning all of the things that we need to learn about being on a farmstead years after building. So we were doing these simultaneously, even though building the hemp homes is sort of our focus and priority. It was knowing that we needed to put the infrastructure in place and start learning these things. So there were some cows and chickens on the land when we got there. We are now goat people. We have lots of brush. That's why. Plus we like goat milk, but there's, in addition to everything else, we've processed over 100 chickens. We've processed some pigs. We've processed our first cow. We've been doing
goats,
things.
Rabbits.
And we're doing rabbits, but those things were really important to get the food security measures in place and not wait until it was a better time to do it. And so that was really important for us to get that going. Another thing that we established with the local relationships is more of a security piece.
Yeah, I nicknamed it Jib, got your back. And it's been really great because where we are in Tennessee is in Polk County. It's a very freedom-orientated place. First couple of months that we were there, I had someone show up like Mr. McGee out of nowhere, 85-year-old guy who told me he was the county coroner. And if anybody dies on our property, that we should let him know right away. But just in case. But what we found out through that was that people in that area really like their land rights, and they like their privacy, and they like freedom. And so we started to understand that the people in that region naturally hadn't gone along with the agenda for the most part, just out of disbelief in the government, anything the government told them to do. So we kind of had a resonance already with the local network. And so with our local contractors and our neighbors and some of our local farmers, I created this JIB network. And so we meet once a month. We talk about gun safety. We talk about, food, who's got different skills, who's got medical skills.
What equipment we have.
It's not just this kind of internal thing that we're doing, but we're looking to the wider community that's true resiliency. Because if something happens to us, I did my shoulder in just before I left on a gas-powered auger, doing it on my own. That was kind of stupid. And I was out of action for 2 days. If we were alone, I'm kind of going to be screwed there. But we have other people there. So everybody jumped in and we finished the job. And
that's a good segue to our model, which I think is a little different than communities that have started before this point. But thanks to John and Bradley, a lot more people are understanding about the private model. And so we have a private membership association. We actually set that up 4 years ago when we met. And that, along with that, operates as our ministry. So those are combined through that 508c1a, and that is putting us in the private realm, because we had a clear vision to not do this in the public realm. Mm-hmm. Through that, we knew that when we found the right land, that we would put the land in a trust. So this shared model allows us to have the land secured. it's a little bit different, and there's a learning curve to explain, which is why I'm so grateful John is now doing a class with Bradley on this Trinity model, because it's really important for people to understand what we're doing is a little bit different, because we are really stuck on the idea of ownership in this country and having everything our own and all of that. So that's a big part of what we're doing, and involving our members in this process. So even though River and I are sort of leading the project, we have lots of members that are involved and participate in different ways through our councils, through our legacy board. And part of the experience that we've gone through together with everyone has really brought us to this aha moment. Nicole talked about it, John's talking about it, but I think this is a spiritual experience that we're all going through right now. And getting back to the land that's part of what happens. You want to talk about the hemp?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we came to land, we looked at how to design this out into the future. Because, we can just look, I want to put something over there. I want to build my house there. But what are the implications of that? And I've worked with a lot of clients internationally. I'd worked on a Trump project. I worked at president's residence, all kinds of stuff internationally. And down to every, just general folk who are building a house. People's conception or perception of where they want to build and is normally based on fantasy. Oh, I love the view. Is normally the first thing, right? But then all of a sudden you build a house there. Now that view's gone. Apart from the person who's standing in the bedroom or something can look at it, nobody else can enjoy it. So it's like looking into the future. So we designed a master plan, and we worked with a Vastu consultant to actually help us.
This is the master plan River designed 2 years ago that we showed at Exit and Build, and it is somewhat the same, but there's some difference. I'll pass around if anybody wants to look at it.
So I kind of followed my intuition about the right places on the land where the waters are flowing, access, privacy, public realm, like all these different layers that need to be considered out into the future. When in the beginning, there's nobody there, but in the future, when you've got 100 people coming, or you've got 100 people living on the land, like what does that look like? What is even the access? What is it when someone's car's driving by? If someone has a business, all of that kind of thing. So we consulted also with the Vastu consultants on where the best places on the land in terms of orientation of the land, in terms of the steepness of the slopes, and where the water's flowing, where the energy's moving. These all affect us on an energetic level, which I think is also very relevant. So that kind of overlaid with my master plan, and a lot of it actually kind of was right on. And the land was previously owned by a paper mill long time ago, Bowater, and they'd cleared some of the areas which had become pasture, and they just happened to be the perfect locations, both that I thought in them realms and through the Vastu. So that was where we kind of developed our neighborhood model. And then the first structure to be built on the land, any permanent structure after the structures that already existed were there, was this Vastu Hempel structure. So we did a workshop last year, and we built a Vastu Hempel, which is the first hemp Vastu temple internationally, just saying. And that's kind of like the anchor point energetically. And because we're a PMA, a private ministry, a private membership association under a ministry of nature, we need to have a place of worship because we're actually a church. And that gives us some rights and some things, but also some obligations that we have to meet. So that was one of them. And it's become a real anchor, a place for people to go when they want to just take a break. And there's no power in there. There's no lights in there. It's this beautiful hemp structure that's a level of precision that's kind of insane, drove me crazy, but we did it.
And we brought our tiny home from Texas. We had done a workshop there that we brought. That was a
tiny
whole,
hemp home.
Yeah, that was an experience, but that's on site. And then we're just finishing our first residential hemp home and starting our second. So we're going to show you guys, let's see if this is a little video actually of the hemping of this first home.
Haven Village is really about creating healthy hemp homes. After spending 20 years in the construction industry and all the architectural education that I had, I saw the building industry was really unhealthy. in so many ways. The building materials that we're using are all petrochemical based. They're all chemical based building materials to seal in our structures as tight as possible and control that indoor environment. And that's creating all kinds of issues with the sick building syndromes. And so I was on a search for a healthy, natural building material that we'd be able to implement in that space of constructing our homes. And a lot of the alternatives weren't able to scale up like hempcrete is. This is really a revolutionary building material. It's an agricultural byproduct. And the academia now is really understanding this as the next evolution of architecture, because we're having a new focus on health. And we spend most of our time indoors inside of our homes. And so this should really be the healthiest place that we get to experience. And so, hempcrete, or hemp lime as it's called, is really creating this system that is a naturally breathing home system. The walls that we're building are mold resistant, rot resistant, fire resistant, insect resistant, and they're super insulating. It has a thermal mass quality too. It can store heat energy in the walls. And what we're trying to do here is showcase how we can build these homes in such a way that we have beautiful structures to live in that are also servicing our health needs. And this is really the next evolution of architecture, and we're here at Haven Village are going to be a model for that into the future, because this is an industry that's coming up right now and it's going to be really big.
Here at Haven Village, a lot of people are being attracted to what we're doing because they're really looking for a healthy home environment. So many people have dealt with toxic homes, specifically mold. But when you look at all of the materials that go in that River talked about that comprise a typical home today, there is compounding materials that are making people sick. And I've talked to so many people, so many mothers with young children, elderly people that have been exposed to mold, that have been compromised in their health because of the toxic materials, and actually have become quite sensitive to environments where they can't even live in a normal home. We have people that have moved out of their home to another home and kind of hopping from home to home in search for a solution. And that's what's so exciting for me when River and I met, and I really learned about hemp and how it works in this home environment, because it solves so many of the problems. It just checks everything off the list, because you don't need to get the air purification systems. You don't need to worry about the paints and what's on the floor. The hemp fills the walls with materials that you're not going to be dealing with a mold situation. And then you're dealing with lime plaster that you can, totally natural material, beautiful quality, where you're having pretty much everything that you want, the health aspect of it and the aesthetic aspect of it. So it's a great solution for people that are conscious and looking for that next level of living in a really beautiful and healthy home environment.
My name is Ryan. I'm a lead on the Haven Earth build team here in East Tennessee, where we are reintroducing the greatest agricultural resource known to mankind in the form of healthy hemp homes. Right here behind me is the inner woody core of the hemp stock, known here in America as hemp hurd. This amount of hurd can make about 4 houses with the size that we're building, but this is about 40,000 pounds of hemp hurd here. Industrial hemp is the most productive biomass material known to mankind, grows faster, produces more material. Being one of the most productive crops, competed with a lot of other industries and was taken away due to corporate influence. And it has now been reintroduced, and the cat's out the bag, and it is back on the menu here in the United States.
I think people should be excited about hemp because this is giving us a way to produce things like food, shelter, and fuel sustainably and locally. So we can use the grain for food, nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals. We can use the fiber for papers, plastics, textiles, and we can use the hurd to build healthy, resilient, and sustainable homes, all from the farms locally. I think there's a lot of demand, especially from a lot of bigger companies that are looking for ways to build more resilient supply chains that are based here in the US. And so the industry, I would still say, is young, but it's growing really fast. And there's a lot of interest, not only from private entities, but from public government entities as well. In the US here, we're the largest agricultural exporter in the world. And if we're good at one thing, it's producing. And so if we have something like this that's extremely versatile and can go into a bunch of different industries, we can produce it really well and create a whole new economic agricultural sector that that helps everybody. Even though it's an old-fashioned way of building, it's definitely the future.
We do have a training that's coming up in the beginning of June. We're actually bringing an expert from the UK, and we'll be building a hemp recording studio in our office area. And so if anybody is interested in learning more about building with hemp, we'll do that. As you noticed in the video, we have a lot of young people coming in, and that's part of our model of being a trade school, and that is part of the economic equation that we set up from the beginning. So not only are we teaching the building, you know, that's really our focus, but there's all aspects of that come with the homesteading as well. So we talked about, we'll just dive into our strategy a little bit. We talked about the PMA, the ministry, and the trust. That's our private land stewardship model. That is the way that we have went in, and that's a really big part of this. And if you are new to that, I would highly encourage you to explore that, because it's really something that it's an individual process that we do collectively. And so the course that John's doing with Bradley and that Trinity model, we find it's really helpful for people to understand a bit more about what we're doing. We also talked about the master plan and design, and maybe you can touch on this, River, about just how we've set it up as far as the team, because under the PMA and the trust, River and I are trustees, but we're also project managers and the visionaries behind the project. So we have a lot of roles. But one of the ways that we've been able to move so fast and get so much done in the last year and a half is because of that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty relevant. I worked in big project management companies doing big multi-million dollar, billion-dollar projects. And if we had to go through a communitarian approach to getting things done, we would still be building the foundation about a decade later. We need decisiveness to be able to get our projects complete. And I think this is a little bit different with our model, is that we're really looking at it like a project in the beginning. The first 3 to 5 years of this project is a project. The community side of things starts to come into play as we build out the residence. But to basically get the infrastructure in and to get the farm activated, get our animals going, get all that infrastructure in there, build our local networks. We really need to do that as a project management team. So that's been really a key part to the success of this. There's a lot of kind of failed attempts at starting what people might call intentional community. And I think that's really because the lack of planning and strategy. And I think as we kind of exit the matrix, there's a tendency to want to abandon all things of the matrix. Oh, well, we can't have agreements and we can't make plans and we can't strategize because that's the matrix. That's a complete nonsense, you know, and I think probably all of you know that. Freedom doesn't look like sitting around smoking weed, getting high. That's not freedom. That's just escapism. You know, true freedom is hard work. And I think that's what we kind of try to demonstrate, is that we're 24/7 on, because we know that's what it's going to take to make this a success. And I know Joe's smiling now because he knows exactly what that's all about.
And freedom requires structure. Actually, you don't have freedom without structure, and nature proves that. And so that's a big part of how we operate, having that structure in place. And that's in every aspect. So we've done it as far as the way that we're building our homes, the way we've approached the farmstead, the way that we bring in residential members. There's a lot of framework to every aspect that we do. So we incorporate a lot of different systems. And that's really like the business mindset. And I think that's kind of what Nicole touched on. And we've looked at what are the multiple layered economics that we're bringing in. So we know that as we bring in those systems and that infrastructure, there's going to be more opportunities for economics that come from that. And then as we bring in the members, which is where we're at now, bringing in the next group of members and getting them more involved and participating more, that they'll be bringing their interests, their passions, their talents, their skills into the equation. We're really creating the sort of the backbone of all this so that it can be a plug and play system in some sense for other people that are coming in. We are not here to save anyone. We're not here to rescue anyone. We're creating the structure so that other people can come in and benefit from it, but also add to it. And I think that that's really important. We tell people that a lot up front, but just like to remind people that many times. So again, the private model, we kind of started talking about all of this. I'd say that some of the ways that River and I have both operated just in our lives prior to meeting for the last couple decades, me primarily as a mother of 6 children that I homeschooled while I ran my cafe in Hartford, Connecticut, and then moving on to like different business projects. And then River's background again, like, and through architecture, is that we both have an incredible ability to pivot. Sometimes this can be really challenging for people around us. Thank goodness we both do this very well together. Because, you know, as Therese, one of our founding members here, I'll just say it's temporary. That's one of my favorite. This is temporary. Just know, temporary. So we can pivot very, very quickly. And I think it requires flexibility when things don't go as planned. You have a plan and you have the structure, but then you need to be able to believe it and, you know, move around. And that's even what we kind of put, like, even when no one believes you. Because a lot of times when you get people to one point and you're saying, this is what we're doing, and now you're like, oh, we're going in this direction, it gets really challenging.
Yeah, and I think taking action is important as well, and being able to learn as we go. You know, I think having a plan is really good, having a strategy is really good, but it doesn't always work out like that, as Imani is saying. You know, but what we often find actually is that kind of through that alchemical process, we actually find out something new, maybe, and a part of ourselves and a part of the process that actually we learn through going through it. And I think that's a big part of this is, you know, you can kind of overthink things. You know, I think you have to get to a certain point, know that you've got a good plan, a good strategy, and then you got to go for it. If you kind of overthink, you get that analysis paralysis thing and you never do shit. You're sitting on your hands forever and waiting for someone else to fix the problems. So really taking action is important. And
having perseverance, because I think you're either can be in that camp of not doing it, but thinking about it all the time, or doing it and not doing it in an efficient or productive way. So even when you're tired or overwhelmed, I think having the efficient systems and then obviously doing it together. I think the lone homesteader idea is not really working for a lot of people. We have a lot of homesteaders coming that are just overwhelmed and exhausted. So really keeping that in check. Staying focused is really important. Clear communication. This is probably one of the more challenging things for me and River, because communication, we're pretty good communicators, but it takes time, a lot of time. And a lot of times we don't have the time or want to spend the time doing that. But it's absolutely really important to take the time and make sure that you have things communicated in a clear way.
And I just want to say I'm from UK, and we're not that great at communicating in general. People might think we are because we speak in a certain way and sounds like we know what we're talking about. But I find it's a challenge for me, you know, to like really over communicate. But what I found when I haven't done that has been a lot more challenging. So I'm kind of going back to like, okay, let's figure a way to communicate with people and find that common ground so people can understand what the tasks are, because when they're clear, then it definitely makes things go a lot smoother.
And then with that too, just kind of clear communication around what we're doing, our message, which, you know, we try really hard to share with people that aren't there living with us what we're doing, and through all the social media. It's not something we want to do at all, but we feel like it's really important to be getting the message out, just kind of like Joel and all the other people that are doing this. It's like it's important to share this and share that experience with other people, because otherwise they don't know what you're doing. And it's a time where we all need to learn from each other. So education is a big part of what we're doing. I don't really want to be on Instagram, but it's some of the only ways I can communicate with some of you. So yeah.
The gram.
So, you know, if you look at our Instagram, you might think it's all just wonderful. And we had one of our interns, Joel, you might appreciate this. He said, hey, this doesn't look like what your Instagram shows, you know, when they got there. Like, whatever River responded to that one.
Yes, it's hard to put on Instagram the challenges. You know, of course you want to put on the good things, right? You don't want to be sharing all your crap. But you know, I think it's definitely, we've learned a lot in that, and setting expectations is really important. Is, we all show our best side in the world, and then getting down the road with it, we're like, oh, I didn't understand that about you or that. So this has been part of the learning process of coming back into some kind of community-centric way of living. Is the communication up front and getting to know people up front is really key. And I think that kind of
that's a process, and we'll talk a little bit how we do that with residential members. We're doing it twofold. We're doing it with residential members coming in who are interested in living there, and then we also have our build team or our I love the stewardship. I think we're gonna do a stewardship program because the intern doesn't really fit, but people who really want to learn to steward the land, and those positions that we have to be really clear what they are. It's not just come here and be on the land with us and through osmosis learn what we're doing, but we have really specific tasks that need to get done, and they're physical tasks. So it's not just something that's in that idealistic realm. So we have learned that it's really important to have very clear written agreements, not just verbal agreements, but written agreements. And I thought we were really clear. I feel like if I write one more thing, I've got schedules, I've got this, that, but it's amazing how much effort it takes to be clear. And the more that you go through the process with people, the more clarity you come to. So we've refined things in the last year and a half, and we feel really, really clear from everything that we've learned in the last year and a half. And there's a process that we go through, a getting to know you process for both our residential members and even anyone that's coming on to be part of a team, so that there's a clear understanding of what they're getting into and what the expectations are. On the other hand, we also have that people come with a lot of expectations and ideas about what they think it should be or it is. So we've kind of try to address that as much as possible. I like to say I'm going to burst your bubble as fast as I possibly can for this to not be what you think it is. So that's my latest thing. But the other big thing, and it goes back to what we were talking about before, is the private model, because our model is so different. It's not like people are coming and they're just buying a piece of land and being our neighbor. They really have to understand the private model. And that was the process that we went through, and River can talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can I ask a question? Who here would like to be free? Who here would like to be free of responsibilities?
Did Joel talk to you about the finances at all for the chicken
So you get
as part of that?
For the most
Pass
part.
the test.
Yeah. I think there's a tendency for us, especially in this community in some way, because we don't want to take away someone's freedoms. We want to seem like we're yeah, sure. Yeah, you're amazing. Sure.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. But I think that's not it doesn't work out well in the end. And I know Bradley was saying about that. He was talking to Bradley the other day, Bradley Logan, just like, don't deviate. Just don't deviate. Doesn't matter who it is. Don't deviate from the protocol, from the things you have set up. Because as soon as you do, it just never works. It never works. And it's not about being rigid, and it's not about being stuck in the old world.
We've been called.
Yeah.
You guys are just in the old world.
Yeah. I mean, we have people come in here like, oh, you work 5 days a week. That's so old world.
These are some of the younger folks.
I'm like, old world? So you're part of that hippie crew then, I guess. You keep going. And I've traveled extensively, so people who think they've got it hard here and work a lot here, go to Africa, go to Russia, go to Kazakhstan, working minus 60 degrees, 60 hours a week. Like, then you'll know what hard work is. We just have it really good in the West. We don't want to work too hard. And that's not going to give you your freedom. Freedom doesn't come for free. Kind of ironic, right? You have to work for it. And I think, what we're talking about here is kind of like working hard at it together. That's what's actually going to bring us freedom.
And And as far as the private model, because a lot of folks, there's a learning curve to understanding that. So we find that people need to go through their own process, and we had to go through our process, but other people have to go through theirs, and the timing sometimes is off a bit, right? So some people are at the beginning, they just woke up and realized the whole world is deconstructing. And then you have others that, like us, who've been here for quite some time, and we're like, could you catch up? You know, it's like, so lining up all of that information and bringing people together can be challenging at times. And when we brought together, even as us as trustees, we understood some aspects of the model. And it's just like you, John, like we've been learning more about it as you embody this private model. There's a lot more to it than that's just what's on the surface. It's not just putting on a course. It's like a find Jesus moment, right? You know, we've all watched John's transparency around really finding this truth. This is like, you have to have this kind of process to get back to being completely sovereign and free. And no one's going to save you. And so that's a big piece of it for us, is that people coming in thinking because we're doing this model or doing it this way, that we're going to somehow save you. Absolutely not, you know. So it's an inside job,
right? And we're creating a container for that to happen. You know, it's not just like, hey, throw people right in it. Of course, there's a container and a process and support and all of that. And we've been going through our own process too with it as well, especially as being trustees. There's a big responsibility with that. And I think there's a big responsibility with us all coming back to the land outside of this ownership model, because then we are really stewards. That's a way bigger responsibility. But it's not one that we're used to. And so it takes a big shift within us internally. It is a spiritual experience, because then you have to get to your core and that you're free. Like Jonathan England would say, you know, it is an inside job. And, you know, all of these structures are just to get us there. Like I was saying, you know, if you know this whole system about how we're not free, and we are birth certificates, and we're on maritime law, and we were basically set adrift at sea, and we're not men and women of the living soil anymore, so we're commercial commodity, tradable, and all of these other things. We're out at sea. What we're creating is another vessel to get us back to the land, actually. That's what Haven Village is, and that's what this model is. It's not the land itself. It's not the goal itself. It's the way to get there. And I think we all need, if we're going to get on that ship together, we're still on a ship. It's not their ship, but it's still a ship, and we're still at sea. So we still have to play in that realm until we actually get to the shore, until we get to the land. And then once we're there, and once we really embody that, none of this is relevant anymore, because you are untouchable in that space.
And completely worthy of it. To bring up. Yeah.
Amen.
So there's a lot of navigation through this. We do have a process that we go through, like I said, with multiple 15 minutes. Okay. And one of the most recent things that we're going to announce here at Exit and Build for the first time ever, John, is kind of our next revelation of how we're taking things, because we have several different neighborhoods that we're setting up at Haven Village. One was in that one with the build was the one that we started. That's the trade school building a house that River designed, with them sharing the utilities, the septic, and the power. So it's a little more affordable and less custom. And then we have larger half-acre, 1 acre lots where people can do more custom. But we are announcing, because we have so many families that have skills, and particularly related to homesteading, that we want to be part of this. But there's obviously more of a financial challenge. Being in the private model, people can't go get a mortgage, right? This is not part of our model.
Well, having a land in a trust is the challenge, because then there is no ownership, and you can't deed a loan against it.
We have decided to separate out 3 lots that we're calling farmstead lots, that are 5 to 6 acre lots, that we will be giving a personal deed to, so that families that have those skills would be able to have to get some outside financing if that was something that they needed to do. So they would still be members. They would have to have some kind of homestead economic equation to bring into our internal economy. And a certain part of the land would need to stay pasture. They would be able to build 2 structures and have other animal structures and barns. But this is a big deal for us because we have the 216 acres, and it's been really challenging to figure out how we could divide the land up in a way that would still maintain what we're trying to do, but be more accessible, particularly to those families that were looking to get involved. So we're very excited to sort of put that out there. We're going to go a little bit more, but what we've realized is that one way that we can get more protection with what we're doing with the trust is have multiple layers of trust. So part of our agreement when people come in as residential members is not only is our land in a trust, but they are required to put their structure, their home that they own, even though the land is owned by the trust, but their structure they own, and they can sell and transfer that with their membership, but they have to put that in a trust. Well, the idea that they had to do their own trust got few people a little ruffled up because they thought we were doing all that, and they didn't want to do all that.
That whole "we're going to save you" kind of thing was happening in their head.
So, but what we realized through this process is that we have multiple layers of trust, and to what River was kind of saying to you earlier, John, is like we're sort of as the trustees and founders the target, and as having one large parcel is more of something that people could go after versus having multiple layers of trusts on top of each other. Maybe you can explain it a little bit further. You can go to the bathroom now, John.
Yeah.
See you, John.
So the whole reason we're doing the putting the land in the trust thing, could anybody have a guess as to why we're putting the land in a trust? Protection, right? Because if everybody just has, a couple of acres each, and then somebody forecloses and the bank starts coming in, and then all, where the story goes from there. So our first tactic was to put all the land in a trust, get the land in a trust and protect it, and then through the membership association, which is really the membership association in the ministry is like kind of like the governing body of that. The trust is a container essentially that kind of takes anybody's name off of ownership. So if they're going after an individual that's not connected to something, it's not connected to the land, it's in its own thing, and that's great. But also what we found along the way that even that could be stronger. We started saying that, okay, if you build a structure on your piece of land, on your property, which you get a unit of beneficial interest for, which is also saleable and transferable and all of that, that you should put your structure in your own trust. So then, which acts as kind of like a will as well, right? Something happens and we need to know what to do with that, if you want to pass it down to your heirs, or if that wants to get sold on, all of that kind of stuff. And it's also not just going to get sold off on the open market. That's got to go through the vetting process. So there's a lot more complexity to this whole system. So putting in the multiple layers of trust, and the way we're doing it, we're doing it with these farmstead lots, and we're also doing it with the neighborhoods. So we'll have the overall trust, which kind of keeps the shared land and the common structures, because we have common structures. We have like shared barn, we have shared kitchen area, we have shared office space, and et cetera, et cetera. 150 acres of pastures and forest. That's in the green belt, which is common land. And then so like the neighborhoods, they'll have their own trustees now for their trust. And then you'll have these farmstead lots with their own trustees for that. So then that starts to create this kind of council of trustees, right? So then we meet every quarter or something, and all of the trustees can meet together and they represent their farmstead or their neighborhood and all of that. And then that gets tied back in under the ministry and under the private membership association. It's a private membership association that's actually protecting us individually. The trust is protecting the land. The PMAs are protecting us. Because what that does is we're in agreement, right? That's under your First and your 14th Amendment. We're allowed to associate together under our own contracts together. That's what I was saying about we don't want to abandon all of these things because they actually serve us. These agreements and contracts we make together willfully stand up in court. They'll stand up. And this is where that ownership part for us individually comes in, is that we have standing. Our agreement and our word actually means something. So we kind of contracting with each other in the private to do this. And then if someone has a problem at some time, we have ways and means to process that, to figure that out. And, you know, that's in the benefit for all of us. So I think having the multiple layers of things stops this one trust being a big fat target. And it, you know.
And also with just the way we're developing, because the town, our county, we're in Polk County, which we're really grateful for, but they're not interested in having large developments come in. And so our model is a little complicated for everyone to comprehend there. In addition, we're building with hemp, and that raises some eyebrows. So when we present it and we have multiple deeds and trust that are layered on top of each other, it looks more familiar to what they're used to dealing with. Because we also want to be, you know, we're not, like River said, trying to get away and do something outside of the system, because there's a lot of things in that system that we're, you know, benefiting from, as far as being, you know, like people in their houses will still pay property tax. Now, Polk County is a lot different than California. So our property tax is not that high. So we're happy to pay property tax because we want them to come and take that gravel road and fix it up. So, you know, you have to look at where are you going in and the relationships that you're building with. We want to develop, we want to be an asset to that community, much like you were here, where we don't want to be looked at as the armpit of that area. We want to be a strength and something that people in that area are proud of. So that's a really big thing for us, because we've talked to so many people that are trying to get around things, and there's ways to get creative, but that's not the approach that we take at all. And we've heard a lot of projects that have stopped, even in Tennessee, which is like the place to be. It's free, but that aren't moving forward because of that. And so that's a really big thing if you're looking to get land and do this, that you really want to pay attention to some of those things. And grateful for River being able to navigate through all those areas, because that's definitely not my expertise.
Yeah, the tax assessors had an interesting journey with us. We've made friends with them, and they want to help us get as much as we can put under our church and not have to hit the tax roll. They too don't want the federal government coming in and telling them what to do. They like their freedom. They are also living in that county. They're not some faceless bureaucrats that need composting, right, Joe? They're the real people that live in that community, and they want their community to thrive as well.
And this is just an off point. I would just say, if you're looking for land, I know that's been a lot of people here are looking for a place to be, but you really want to look at location. Location is really, really important, more than ever right now. And we're really, really grateful and happy to be where we are there in East Tennessee. We will be having an open house this Friday. We don't have that many opportunities for people to come to the land. Part of our economic model is agritourism. So people can come on the weekends, not just drop in whenever they're in the area or whenever they feel like it. We work nonstop during the week. We are hosting people on some weekends. That would be Friday through Sunday. But this Friday, May 30th, we have an open house from 4 to 6. So some people have already come up, said they're in the area, and that would be a time to come in. The next one will be summer solstice weekend, June 20th through the 22nd. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely let me know, or you can get on our mailing list at havenearthtradeschool.net and get kind of updated on that. Is there anything you wanted to say specific about the master plan? Because in addition to people that might be looking for a place for residential membership, there's a few people out there that also are looking to move assets into something tangible, and land is something to do that with. And we're that leads into this. I think what's definitely been a challenging part of this private model is being the kind of decoupling from the banking system and all of that, which everybody's gotten used to get financing and things like that. So, you know, our demographic has been people who are later in their life who've had assets that they could sell, whether it was a house that they paid off already and these kind of things.
the younger people, we can bring in through the trade school and bring that energy in, because you need a lot of energy to build something out like this. And also, we love having younger people around. We all have our own kids, and we want to bring our own kids. But I think, so we've kind of got to the position where we're looking for like legacy. We don't call them investors because they're not investors really. Legacy members who would be able to help with a fund to basically create a loan, create some kind of private mortgaging for these younger families to be able to kind of get
that deed that would be secured in the farmstead lot. So 3 farmstead lots with those families looking to build a home that could secure that. I know we're at time. I just want to say 2 more things because we had another slide. I would say that the qualities of people that we're looking for those of you that are interested in residential, is, like we said, the comprehension of the private model. Anybody that's looking to exit the matrix, people that have funds to build their own home, and people that don't want to do it alone and who want to be part of a legacy project. One of the areas that and Joel talked to this, and I think this is probably one of the most important
points. I took this one
points.
from Joel yesterday.
Shared risk taking.
Yeah. I think people are looking for certainty in uncertain times. And I think anywhere you look right now, there is nothing certain. And there probably wasn't anything certain before, but it was just the illusion of it, right? And I think it's really important now is about where you're going to take your risks. Are you going to take a risk with an unknown and put it in somebody else's hands, or Trump's going to save us? Who thinks Trump's going to save us here? I mean, because not that I have any qualms about that happening potentially, but I know, and if we haven't learned in the last few years, that the rug can get pulled out from underneath you at any point. And it doesn't matter who's got good intentions, there might be forces at play that can divert that, change that, or whatever it is. The only people that we have that we can really trust is ourselves, and then the people that we can connect with in a way and really understand that we're on the same page together and we have the same goals together. That's our best risk. That's really our best risk right now. And I think that's where, as Joel was saying, is like people need to be willing to share the risks. We're taking a lot of risk, but you know what? It feels really good. And it feels really great to wake up in the morning and look out at our life and know what's happening in the world and see what's happening on and all these different things that are going on. I don't have any anxiety about that because we're doing what we need to do to be in the position, if any of these things do manifest, that there's nothing else or no better place we can be than where we are right now, creating a new life, resiliency, food sovereignty, healthy homes, a strong economy, a local economy. Hemp's the future, actually, in a lot of ways. Agriculture is the future. We can't be sustainable or regenerative if we don't have local sources of these things. And so I think this is the key right now, is knowing where your risks are and what risks you want to take. You've got to take some risks. There is no certainty. And I think that is important to understand, and probably relevant to this whole conversation, is that there isn't any certainty right now. Yeah, you just kind of got to bite the bullet and do what feels right and what's really resonating for you, and then trust in a higher source that's guiding you along the way, and kind of put your faith in God. And
so be it. If anyone's interested in learning more about what we're doing at Haven Village, you can come over to our booth or look at us up at havenvillage.net. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John and Rebecca.
Thanks,
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Give it for River and Imani, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. River and Imani from Haven Village in Old Fort, Tennessee. It was a great talk. I was listening in, getting some work done just now. And I really think they broke it down, the model and the lessons. It's like an ongoing growth and doing this work, especially the private realm work, but then private realm work, which already is a learning and growth experience, coupled with building a community and dealing with relationships and dealing with the land and construction projects and the county and all sorts of stuff. It's just massive opportunity for connecting deeper with God and with yourself and just getting things figured out. And it's cool to see that evolution within River and Imani. And again, guys, if you want to tap into this model and learn how you can apply it in your own project, I want to invite you guys again. We're doing a private realm mastermind, private realm community mastermind. Shout out to the folks that are watching live. Build Your Own Haven Village, private realm community immersion, June 25th to the 29th. This is hosted by Haven Village, Haven Earth PMA, and Divine Purpose PMA, my private membership association. So I dropped the link there. It's in the show notes. If this interests you, you sign the member agreement, and then you'll learn more about the opportunity. And then again, Exit and Build 6 is coming up, my friends. This is going to be a great event, November 5th through the 8th at Sovereignty Ranch, the most immersive yet. Full immersion. You can camp on site. We'll hang out, walk around the property, share meals, hang out around the campfire, sing songs, maybe a little freestyle rap. And in addition to land and community, which has been the focus of past Exit and Build events, we're going to work in the counter economy, crypto, alternative internet systems, mesh-tastic, private communication, entrepreneurship, alternative currencies, alternative investments. And then this one's going to be all about implementation. There's going to be talks from the stage. Don't worry. And we got some incredible speakers already lined up. But guys, I'm trying to figure out how to release the 3 speakers that we just booked recently. Wait, let me see. 3, and 1 is really wanting to come, but all 4 of them are like incredible, like blow your mind speakers. And we got 4 of them. 3 of them are all yes. 1 of them is probably, I would say 90% yes. And none of them are on the website. These are like insane, badass speakers that I need to figure out how to get announced. I want to do some special announcement for each one of them. But you're going to hear from the speakers, and more importantly, the speakers are all going to collaborate and help you with real implementation and hands-on workshops. So we're going to have fewer speakers this time around. At least that's the intention. We always shoot for fewer speakers and end up having a ton of speakers. But we're going to cap the speakers, have fewer speakers, and then really leverage the knowledge and wisdom of the existing speakers. They'll be there on site. So it's not just going to be like, oh, wow, I watched a talk, 40-minute talk from the stage, and that's exciting. I took notes. It's, oh, man, they just gave a powerful talk from the stage and invited me at 6 o'clock today or tomorrow at noon to go sit down in a 1-hour workshop where they're going to help us interactively to set up my land plan, or to set up a Quartal node, or to set up my business plan, whatever it may be. It's going to be something special. So again, that's exitandbuild.com, exitandbuild.com. River and Imani will be presenting along with Alex Zeck, Molly Englehart, Mike Winter, and Jason Crow from Quartal. Brian Burnson is our local farming expert. Glenn and Eric Meter, the entire Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship crew, and a whole slew of incredible musicians as well. And more speakers revealed soon. Some big speakers coming up for you guys. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I hope to see you at Exit and Build, or in person, or maybe at one of our bi-weekly Freedom Cell social dinners we host here in Bastrop, Texas. Thanks again, guys. This is the Live Free Now show, where every Wednesday from 11 a.m. Central, I bring you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. Until next time, stay free out there, friends. Peace.